They called it the golden age of Hollywood, but behind the glamour lies a forgotten story of the women who shaped its beginning.
There were incredible opportunities for women in early Hollywood. It was a period of incredible growth in the industry, and there were opportunities for a lot of people. Had there been as many female filmmakers working through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we would have had a very different film industry.
This video explores how early female filmmakers built an entire industry, only to have their work overshadowed, and in many cases lost.
You know, what is it? Something like 80% of all the silent films are lost. Now, there's a euphemism I love, lost. They weren't lost. They were thrown away. They were sold to be melted down for the silver and the nitrate.
From groundbreaking directors to rebellious writers, they dared to tell bold stories in an era without rules. Join us as we uncover the ingenuity, resilience, and legacy of these pioneering women. A history too powerful to remain in the shadows. Before rigid studio hierarchies, Hollywood operated as a laboratory for gender experiment. At Universal Studios alone, women directed over 170 films between 1916 and 1921. Ruth Ann Baldwin's westerns, Ida Mae Park's dramas, and Lois Weber's social commentaries. These Universal women often wore multiple hats, writing, producing, and starring in their films, while challenging Victorian norms through stories about birth control, labor rights, and sexual freedom.
I mean, to me, asking the question of, why was Hollywood open to women in these early years, or why were women attracted to filmmaking in these early years, is the wrong question. Why wouldn't women be interested in this, in this new profession, this new medium, the opportunity to work and live independently, the opportunity for creative, fulfilling work? Why wouldn't they be interested?
And they're not alone. In 1896, Paris, Alice Guy Blaché, 23-year-old secretary at Gaumont, borrowed a camera to create The Cabbage Fairy, cinema's first fictional narrative about vegetable-born babies. In 1905, Alice pioneered synchronized sound experiments and color tinting. By 1112, her New Jersey-based Solax studio rivaled Hollywood's output, producing westerns like Two Little Rangers that blended action with social commentary. This transatlantic movement saw women controlling 20% of early studios, a percentage unmatched for a century.
Guy Blaché was, like Weber, an extraordinary advocate for female filmmakers. She published an article called A Woman's Place in Photoplay Production in 1914. Not only did she argue that women were well-suited to be directors, she made the case that women were better suited to be directors than men. And she gave two reasons. She said, women are an authority on the emotions, and that what we might now call the emotional intelligence of women made them better able to direct performers.
Lois Faber was not only one of Hollywood's first female directors, but also one of its most daring storytellers. As an actress alongside her husband, Phillips Smalley, she quickly became known for her technical mastery and bold narratives. Films like Hypocrites, which depicted truth as a nude woman, and Asterisk, Where Are My Children, which tackled taboo topics like birth control, cemented her reputation as a filmmaker, unafraid to challenge societal norms. At the height of her career, she was one of the highest-paid directors in Hollywood.
She made films that had messages, really. You take any other filmmaker, any other contemporary woman filmmaker, they were just making standard program pictures, really. Nothing very special, nothing wonderful, but nothing bad either, just average type program pictures. Whereas Lois Weber wanted to make films that dealt with major issues like abortion, birth control, capital punishment, gossip and scandal, hypocrisy in politics and religion.
And this arc of 1917 to 1921, she starts out with in an incredible position. With very, very lucrative distribution deals. She's really at the height of her power. By the early 20s, studio executives are incredibly nervous about the overt feminist politics of her films and her contract. After the collapse of her production company in 1921, it became more difficult for her to find work in Hollywood, as was true of many women or many filmmakers that had tried to work independently.
As the once collaborative film community grew into powerful corporate studios, women's influence began to wane. In 1924, the formation of M.M. the merger of Metro Pictures, Goldwyn Pictures, and Louis B. Mayer Productions ushered in new hierarchical structures that favored businessmen and central producers over independent voices. Alina Asimova, already established as one of Hollywood's few female producers, saw her daring film Salome become a financial failure that effectively ended her career as a producer. Meanwhile, executives tightened creative control. By the late 1920s, Dorothy Arzner was nearly alone among female directors to sustain a contract with a major studio.
In the film industry, because I was looking specifically at directors, they're not the ones with the power anymore. It's the producers that have the power. But the directors are kind of the stars now behind the camera, right? I mean, they had been before, but now they really are. So people like directors. They're sort of famous people. And of course, Cecil B. DeMille becomes the most famous director of the 1920s. And he's a great example because you could not be more masculine than Cecil B. DeMille. He was crazy masculine. You know, when you think of I know that when I was a kid, I'd think of, well, what does a movie director look like? And I would think of somebody in like riding breeches with boots and like a pith helmet, you know? And that's actually what he did, right? Even inside the studio, he'd be there in his like riding breeches. And it's like, really? And so, and a lot of the people who were there at the time were like, really? That's a bit much. But he acting as a director, you know what I'm saying? Like he was creating this persona. Everything was a message, right? I am the guy in charge. He had a whip, you know? So all the messages were, this is a masculine job. You have to be a man to do this. And I have a quote from him in my research, in my book, where he just describes this to a T. Like, no, the job now is I think he called it the man who never sleeps. And it was actually a taxing job. There's no question about it, but he made it a masculine job. Lois Weber did it. She said it was a taxing job. Alice Guy Blaché did it. She was actually praised for her efficiency methods back in the day. She said it was taxing, but now it was taxing and masculine. And certainly if you're an investor and you're looking for a business that you want to put your money into, you don't know a lot about this business, but you'd like to make some money in the 20s, and I would hazard to guess even now, you're going to go with Cecil B. DeMille. Because even to this day, because I'm a business historian, even to this day, if a woman is named a director of a company, that stock will drop within 48 hours. There's been several studies. It might come back up, but there is an initial reaction among investors to pull their money out if a woman is at the top.